This video is inspired by a couple of points that were touched on in a video discussion between Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Pageau. I'll link the video in the periphery of this video somewhere. In that particular video, which was titled The Metaphysics of Pepe, Pepe being Pepe the Frog, which is this character if you are unaware. They went into quite a bit of detail in that video about the pseudo-religion and pseudo-nationality of Kekistan, and I know that most of you are not familiar with that, so I'm not going to go down that path, but what I'm going to do instead is talk to you about some concepts that you are aware of but may not be aware of from this particular perspective, which I think is the truest and purest perspective of those particular phenomena. And right here is meant to be an edited title card, but my computer's in storage, so I can't edit properly and I can't be bothered. But my name's Fahad Mian. This is Prime Philosophy, and I'm gonna go into the philosophy of meme magic and trolls. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Try to interact with me so that I can remind myself that I'm actually alive and not living in some sort of weird experimental bubble. Okay, so I will start or continue with a disclaimer that I'm not trying to explain every single meme or every single troll behavior. I'm not trying to make sense of all of that stuff. I'm going to sort of explain the roots and the foundation of where these concepts came from, so that you can understand how to distinguish between what really is a meme or what is a successful meme and what isn't, and what is an actual troll and what is someone just who doesn't understand what a troll is and is just trying to be a troll, or so you don't fall into the traps of misidentifying and misunderstanding these concepts, because it's very important that we don't do that in today's culture, and I'll go into some detail about why. So I will start from the start. In about the early 2000s, the internet was expanding. There was a lot of growth of communication and social networking, and more people than ever before in history had the opportunity to express themselves to an extremely wide audience. And what this kind of clashed with was the politically correct culture that had started before it and was trying to edge its way into the internet. And we know that it kind of smacked into internet culture, and they both kind of clash. What ended up happening through the early 2000s was a lot of people who wanted to express themselves and didn't know how to express themselves in this new medium weren't told how to express themselves, but they were told how not to express themselves by political correctness. And that leaves people with kind of without an identity, without a voice, and ostracized to the fringes of society, especially on the internet. We're looking at internet, popular discussions on the internet, and sort of like unpopular, and then fringe right at the end, where it's like, you can't talk about anything. And by political correctness, I'm talking about things like where if someone makes a joke about suicide, then a politically correct-minded person may try to shame that person, or guilt trip them, or talk bad to them for making a joke about suicide, even if that person, say, for example, has felt suicidal and wants to make jokes about suicide, so that it can be at the so it can be a more easier thing to discuss. So those kind of people were ostracized out of popular discussions on the internet. And what they found was they found a very comfortable place in anonymous message boards like 4chan, where they could express themselves. Now, just think about that for a moment. There's a group of people who felt comfortable with the idea of relinquishing their own identity in order to express themselves freely. So you have to understand the socio-psychological kind of landscape that has to exist to cause that kind of oppression or repression, where someone would relinquish, like I said, express themselves anonymously and not have to worry about who their expression is attributed to, because they felt safe in doing so. So that's the kind of culture where trolls and memeing kind of sprang forth from. People were looking for a way to express themselves. So troll and meme culture is kind of an antithesis, a naturally socialized manifestation of antithesis to political correctness. And where it really took off, for a number of years, people were expressing themselves in different ways, but nothing really kind of latched on as a figurehead or a prime example of how to express oneself, or what kind of imagery or format to use to express oneself. And what they really latched onto was Pepe the Frog, which originated from a comic strip where a humanoid frog with a frog face is found to be urinating in the toilet, standing up, urinating in the toilet with his pants pulled all the way down to the floor. And someone walks in on him and says, "Hey, what are you doing that for?" And he turns around and says, "It feels good, man." So you can just, in a very basic, fundamental human psychological way, you can kind of understand how someone who wants to do something unconventional without harming anyone and just wants to feel good can do it through that comic. Or they related, a lot of people related to that particular comic because they wanted to do unconventional, unorthodox things because it felt good and it wasn't harming anyone, but they weren't able to. So the Pepe the Frog is a kind of a symbol of memes and the troll and the kek culture there because of that identification or that relation that people felt to that frog. Now, memes themselves are roughly a specific form of expression through text and imagery, where the meme itself generally expresses some sort of idea about culture or society or politics. And what I want to, what was briefly touched on in the video that I'm inspired by is the way that the meme is kind of a mirror to the world around it. And not every meme ends up being like this, but the core function of the meme as an antithesis to the status quo political correctness, the meme ends up becoming a reflective joke shown to the rest of the world. It's kind of like a distorted funhouse mirror showing the kind of craziness of the world. And some people, a lot of people, expect it to be clear and transparent so you can look through this thing to make sense of it. But it's a mirror. So what it's actually doing is testing the person who's observing the meme so that they can learn how to process and interpret and respond and express as a reaction to the actual meme. Now you can either laugh, or if you somehow take offense to it, then you're going to react adversely. And the people that react adversely to it, without recognizing that it's meant to be a reflection of society, they end up tripping over themselves. So I can maybe explain it in a very philosophical, broad way by relating it to the concept of rocking the boat. You've heard the phrase, don't rock the boat. Well, let's just say that the concept of the meme or the troll is the introduction of chaos into the world. Chaos into the world where there is order and disorder. And when I say disorder, I mean something that looks like it's going to work, looks like it's in order, but it hasn't been made with correct order. It's been made with dysfunction, and ultimately fails at whatever it's trying to do. So the chaos injected by the troll and the meme is meant to help distinguish between order and disorder in society. This is a very broad philosophical description. If we apply it to the don't rock the boat scenario, then rocking the boat, disrupting it, is the chaos, and the boats, or the parts of the boats that are made with order, are going to be able to withstand the rocking of the boat. Actually, it's going to fortify and double down on the trust that one can have in that boat if it can withstand a rocking. So a rocking is actually good. In this scenario, chaos is actually good for something that has been made with order. Now, if that boat was made with there's a lot of dis words that can come in. Disingenuous nature, or disillusion, or disapproval. If the boat is made from disorder, then rocking the boat is going to reveal the disorder. And that's the very, very basic concept of the meme or the troll expressing and having an impact on the world around us. I'll put it into a bit more of a sort of friendly personality kind of story that you can tell your kids as well. And I don't know whether I stole this from Aesop or whether I just made this fable up and made it try and fit into this narrative, but it's the story of the fox and the grapes. I don't know if this is a common story. I don't know if I'm just twisting it to make sense. But there's a fox, and the fox, by personality of this particular fox, is selfish and greedy and inconsiderate of others, and does not wish to understand others, or it cannot understand others, so it thinks only for itself. And it does not recognize itself very well either in the world around it. And one day this fox finds a low-hanging vine with a bunch of grapes on it. So it bites the bunch of grapes off, puts it in its mouth, and starts walking off home because it wants to have all the grapes to itself. It doesn't want to share. It's greedy and selfish. Along this path on the way home, it has to cross a waterway, and there's a log across the waterway, and it's walking across the log, and it happens to look down and sees in the water that there's another fox there with another bunch of grapes, and it doesn't want some other fox to have another bunch of grapes. It wants to have this greedy fox wants to have 2 bunches of grapes to itself. How dare this other fox have another bunch of grapes? So in its reaction, this greedy fox goes to snatch the bunch of grapes from the other fox, and in that motion, it drops its own bunch of grapes, not realizing that the other fox was actually its own reflection. And it loses its own grapes in the water. The second pseudo bunch of grapes are also gone. and the fox, in losing its own grapes, doesn't realize what's happened and self-defeat. So that's a nice little one you can tell your kids about self-awareness and thoughtfulness about other people and not being too greedy and sharing. Even if the fox did realize that it was its reflection, it may have let it go. If it didn't realize that it was reflection and it wasn't a selfish fox, it may have just let the other fox have its own bunch of grapes and been on its way. So it's not just a lack of self-awareness that people fall from, but it's a sense of maybe overprideness or selfishness or greediness, something like that, which tends to catch people up who don't observe and respond to memes properly. The meme obviously being the reflection in the water, and the disorder being the greediness of the fox. So the meme vanished, it's nothing, it doesn't have an identity, it's a reflection of the world. The meme or the reflection disappears while it's manifested itself into reality through the consciousness of the observer and produced a particular reaction, and not good for that fox. What I want to do now is show you a real world example of this, because it's enough for me to talk about boats philosophically rocking and foxes and grapes and reflections, but the idea is that I'm not specifically talking about literal reflections per se. It might be. It doesn't have to be an actual literal reflection. It can be a psychological reflection or interest. I'll show you. So there was an article I found a little while ago from on the Psychology Today website, and I'm not gonna say that they're the arbiters of psychological professionalism in the medical industry or whatever industry, mental health industry, but certainly the things that they say on here are going to be, at the very least, a opinion based on what they've seen in popular culture, and it will form and contribute to continuing opinions in popular culture about this kind of behavior. But here it says, by Jennifer Goldbeck, PhD, writing for Psychology Today, internet trolls are narcissists, psychopaths, and sadists. The first line of this goes, in this month's issue of Personality and Individual Differences, a study was published that confirms what we all suspected. Internet trolls are horrible people. Okay. So narcissists and psychopaths and bad people, and what they thought was the outcome ended up being the outcome. So that particular article, this gets juicy in a moment. That particular article was a double down from a previous article, which was titled, Are You an Internet Troll? By the same person, Jennifer Goldbeck, PhD. Are you an internet troll? And there's 4 simple questions that you can ask yourself to determine if you're an internet troll or how much of an internet troll you are. And those 4 questions, written by someone else of in the mental health industry, doing a study on trolling, has written these questions, and Jennifer Goldbeck has represented these questions and then doubled down on these questions. So the first question, or the first thing that you have to consider yourself to determine whether you're a troll or not, Number 1, I have sent people to shock websites for the laughs. Okay. The second one, I like to troll people in forums or the comments section of websites. Hold on, you're a troll if you like to troll people? That doesn't make sense. How can you define something by what you're trying to define? That's a circular logic or something? That's really weird. It's like saying you like to eat oranges if you like to peel and eat oranges in the sunshine. It's for a psychological survey study on a website about psychology, dealing with an issue that a lot of people in popular culture face. For them to get something like that wrong, it's pretty telling. The second one, or the third question, or the third statement, I enjoy griefing other players in multiplayer games. So that, I don't play multiplayer games. How many trolls play multiplayer games? Many of them, certainly some of them might not. Does this mean that you have to play multiplayer games to be a troll? It sounds to me as if whoever wrote these questions has written them from the perspective of their own personal experiences rather than something broad and applicable to everyone. The fourth question is just the more beautiful and pure a thing is, the more satisfying it is to corrupt. It's just really weird for me to say this because they're saying it's a 4-question survey, but none of these are questions. That's another thing. Like I can't understand how a psychology article can make that mistake. I'm going to go back now to the previous article, the first article that I mentioned that said internet trolls are narcissists and psychopaths and sadists. Yeah. Now the thing is that narcissists and psychopaths, well, they don't know that they're narcissists and psychopaths. So you can't say to them, hey, you're a narcissist if you like being a narcissist, but internet trolls are narcissists and they think that you can tell you're an internet troll if you like to be a troll. That means you need to be aware of the fact that you're a troll in order to be a troll, but if you're aware that you're a troll, then how can you be a troll? Because a troll involves you being a narcissist and a psychopath. Narcissists and psychopaths aren't supposed to know that they're narcissists and psychopaths unless they've been, to a therapist or something, and the therapist tells them that they are. So by their own logic, I can say that if I identify as a troll, then I'm not a troll. But in their question, it says that you are a troll if you are a troll. Or you like being a troll. It doesn't make sense. So here we have, to me, the logical loop that they've stuck themselves in with this definition is the fox looking into the mirror and not seeing itself, not seeing their own narcissism, where they think that they know what they're talking about, but they don't know what they're talking about. It's quite obvious they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They react to that reflection, and the result of that reaction is the contradiction within their particular statement. I'll show you right there. There. The second one. You're a troll if you like to troll people, or something like that. I can't read it right now, but you can see it there. It's right there. So that's I think a pretty telling and damning kind of example of how troll and meme behavior is impacting the world that tries to observe it and can't observe it properly. So I would suggest you don't fall into this trap of reacting adversely to trolls or memes, because the adverse reaction is ultimately a self-defeating adverse reaction. You either want to go along with it, or you want to ask for clarification and explanation, or you just ignore it. But I think it's very important today to really sort of understand the fundamental roots of where this idea sort of sprung forth from. Otherwise, you're gonna end up having problems online, communicating with people and looking like an idiot, like these people on Psychology Today. So I'll leave you with something to remember. Offense can't be given, it can only be taken. So if you're taking offense, don't be greedy. Ask for clarification. Ask if you're supposed to be taking offense or not. Because so often I see people just take it without, thinking twice, and they just want to be offended. So no one can give it to you. You choose to take it and feel that way. So be aware of that. Peace and love, and hope everyone stays safe. Thanks for listening.